If you're in a position where you're scared of a social interaction, in most cases, it's because you don't think that highly of yourself. And you don't have that confidence in yourself to enter a room and, and not worry about what other people think. And so that's something that I've spent 10, 15 years, just internally of just like, okay, no one cares where you sit. No one cares what you say. Like, it doesn't matter unless they're already close friends of yours, then they already trust you on some level. And so kind of just fixing the internal dialogue of like, hey, these people either know and trust me or they don't care about what I'm doing.
Your life, your journey starts now.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Journey Coaching channel. I'm Abigail.
And I'm Adam.
And today we are going to be sharing some insights from Adam's story. And we're taking it directly from session 1 of the Journey Workbook. And the Journey Workbook is structured in a way where you have 7 sessions, and it's just a framework to get to know someone. And maybe you have someone at your workplace or at school, or just a friend that you would like to get to know deeper. Just sit down, enjoy a cup of coffee with them, just get to know them. It's really just a basic structure, a basic framework to learn more about someone and their story. And so today we're going to dive deeper into Adam's story, and specifically with a topic that seems to be on your heart as it relates to stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
My first question would be, have you dealt with stress and anxiety your entire life? Like, is there a moment that you can remember, like, when you're little? Because, like, for me, I haven't dealt with stress or anxiety very much. Not that I can remember.
Yeah. I think everybody has dealt with stress a lot as they grow up. And you get exposed to it at a very young age, but you don't recognize it right away. And so I think going to your question of when do I first recognize stress and anxiety? A story that I remember from when I was really little was I would be very, very nervous at times to go to school, to participate in social events. I'm relatively introverted, and I was really introverted when I was little. I was not a social butterfly, so to speak, but I got so much stress from just different events that I would get stomach aches really, really badly, to the point where I would have to go to the doctor or to the hospital, ER, whatever. They took me because they couldn't figure out why my stomach hurt so much.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what it was. The doctors couldn't find anything obvious, an obvious diagnosis to what it was. And it took 3 or 4 years for them to figure out that, oh, well, I'm really nervous right now, and then my stomach hurts. And then, 30 minutes would go by. I'd either resolve whatever I was stressed about or forget about it even, take my mind off it, and then my stomach would feel okay. Yeah. And so I remember when I was really little that I would have a lot of stomach problems, and that was kind of my first eye-opening moment of, like, I didn't realize what stress was necessarily because I was really little, but I knew my stomach hurt, and so I knew I was worried. And so that was my first exposure to stress, and it was really interesting, just the fact that they couldn't figure out what it was. I thought it was like some sort of medical condition,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we were just kind of sitting around thinking about it, and I was like, okay, if they can't figure out what it is, then it's probably stress related. And so I'd do exercises with my therapist when I was little, and so then stress relief would come into that, and then we would figure out, oh, well, now my stomach doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Great, so it took a while. But
well, that's interesting. You said that you had a therapist, so it's almost like you were kind of exposed to all the different possibilities of this that people wouldn't usually think of.
Right. I mean, well, my parents got divorced at a pretty young age. I think it was like 7 or 8 years old. And so, I'm assuming that's when the stomach aches kind of heightened.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it really came to light of like, if I'm already not a very social person and there's a lot of social turmoil going around in my life, of course I'm going to have that kind of
Yeah.
reaction. And so, but to process through that, and thankfully that they kind of pointed me in that right direction. And so it was a really young age of kind of opening my eyes to what stress was in my life and kind of figuring out, okay, this is how you recognize it. Thankfully, you have a very obvious tell of when you're stressed. Some
Yeah.
people get like fidgety. Some people, I don't know, they stumble over their words. Some people act out, maybe they get more upset or
Yeah, for
lean
everyone
towards
it's
like
different.
anger. Yeah, everybody it's
Yeah.
different. Mine was a very physical tell,
Yeah.
which
So would you so it sounds like school and like social gatherings made you nervous. Would you, when you felt that anxiety, would you like not go to them? Would you,
yeah.
so you'd avoid?
My first tactic would be to avoid. I think that was when I was really young. That's what it was. I remember one time I was so nervous, stressed. I don't know why. Looking back, you some things you're stressed about, you look back as you've grown and you're like, I don't know why you was so stressed. But little me was so stressed about Halloween for some reason. And I don't know if it was like, was I stressed about what costume I was going to wear? Was I stressed about how much candy I was going to get? You never know. I was so stressed that I got the stomach aches that I was talking about. And so I ended up going to my room and laying down, and luckily I ended up I went from being, essentially doubled over in pain to I ended up falling asleep for like 20 minutes, and my parents woke me up and they're like, "Come on, man, it's Halloween, we gotta go." And I was like, "Okay," but going to sleep, taking my mind off of it,
Yeah,
got me to
getting
the point
rest.
where I wasn't physically in pain anymore, and I ended up enjoying the evening or whatever it was. But it's just those small social things like going out and trick or treating in a costume. I must have been pretty like socially insecure about what my costume was. I don't even remember what it is because this was so
But for
long
some
ago.
reason you were insecure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so just to get over that and to realize that the stress was there. So that's always been a thing. And I've always been nervous around, like first day of school, going and meeting new people
Yeah.
or going out to recess, finding a place to sit at the cafeteria when there's hundreds of kids.
That was just the worst experience ever.
It's so bad.
Ugh, I don't ever want to go back to that.
So those first day of school vibes, and even I've grown and developed. Even going through college, where do you sit on the first day of school? And so my stress relief was kind of thinking through it logically and being like, okay, well, I want a seat on the end of the aisle because I don't want to be trampling through people to get to my seat. And if it's a class I don't like, I'll sit all the way by the door. It didn't change my learning at all. And so, but I've never been like, I want to go sit in the middle of the room so that a lot of people sit by me and then I can talk to people. I'm just the opposite of that. But yeah. And so there's a lot of things that stress has been present in, and a lot of it is socially related. I think that's one of the weaker points of who I am.
Yeah. And so what do you do with that? If there's something that you need to do, how do you handle that? Like, for example, you have to go to a social event. Because I know
Right.
you actually, I mean, you're on a podcast and you're talking and you're social and you go to events and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I've seen you work through almost those. So how did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of growth, and a lot of it was kind of those internal, kind of that internal dialogue that you talk to yourself about. Because if you're in a position where you're scared of a social interaction, in most cases, it's because you don't think that highly of yourself, and you don't have that confidence in yourself to enter a room and and not worry about what other people think. And so that's something that I've spent 10, 15 years, just internally of just okay, no one cares where you sit. No one cares what you say. It really just, it doesn't matter unless they're already close friends of yours. Then they already trust you on some level. And so kind of just fixing the internal dialogue of like, hey, these people either know and trust me or they don't care about what I'm doing. And that's okay. And so just building the confidence in that manner, coming to talk on a podcast. I'm here on a podcast. I'm going to break the fourth wall here. Either you guys could benefit from what I'm saying or you don't care. Like it's one of the two. And so it doesn't change. It's not going to directly affect how I'm doing. And if there's a chance that that I can say something to directly help someone who may be going through stress due to social stuff or due to whatever and may not be sure how to deal with stress, then I'll say it. Like I'll bring that to light because there's a chance that it helps somebody. And so that kind of reframing my thought process has been a big part of dealing with that stress.
Yeah. It's almost like, even kind of just the way that you described it, it's like you're now facing the issue like, okay, this is what it really is. You're using the logic part of your brain, like, I'm going to be fine.
Right.
And I'm going to continue what I'm going to do, and it's not going to stop me.
Yeah. I mean, there's two key parts of kind of your thought process and kind of your decision-making process is you got your head and you have your heart. And both those are very important because there's times when you really need to use that logical side of your brain to think through stuff because your heart might be, you might be going through situations where maybe you were heartbroken in the past about something. And so that kind of skews maybe a natural reaction or a proper reaction to something that you should have. If let's say you were sick one time, you go on a roller coaster and you throw up. Like your heart's going to sit there and it's going to be like, well, now I'm kind of scared to go on a roller coaster. Right.
Yeah.
Because you just associate it to that. To the fact that you threw up. But then your logic part of the brain might come in and be like, well, I just had a really bad carnival meal beforehand. I had a funnel cake and I had a nachos and, and all that stuff. It didn't sit well. So I probably would have thrown up regardless. But because it happened on the roller coaster, and that might have been a small catalyst, but just, and so logic kind of cancels out that heart side of it. And so when my heart's telling me, oh, this is a big social event that you should be scared of because you are, maybe you're not worth it, maybe you're not socially acceptable, whatever it might be, whatever my heart's telling me, that's where the logic side needs to kick in. And that's where you need to balance and think about what is your head thinking versus what is your heart thinking.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I have been really intentional about trying to differentiate.
Yeah. So take me back to, I guess, high school and even college years. I know that you're involved in many different things, blitzball, you have a degree in engineering.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, I think, on the podcast. Maybe this was a long time ago, but you had opened up to us about how engineering, you thought you were just like trained to just be an engineer, that you didn't actually think or feel.
Right.
And you weren't led in a way that was beneficial for you as a person entirely.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm sure that causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress, and I guess share a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I guess I was always good at the skills that were required to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Everybody has a skill set that, could narrow down your potential successful occupations to, a smaller piece of the pie of what. Not everybody's cut out to be everything. And that's totally okay. And engineering was one of those things where I was good at. But it wasn't something that I had a lot of passion for, a lot of heart for. And so I originally went to college just to get that engineering degree, assuming that, work is work and that you really don't have to be passionate about something in order to be successful at work, which for some people that's true. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, that will go through work life and they'll just, kind of stick through it just to be able to enjoy the 5 to 9 instead of the
Yeah.
9 to 5. But as I got through it, I was affirmed in the fact that I really wasn't a big fan of the actual inner workings of engineering. It didn't light that spark or that passion that I had for other things that also use my skill set. So that caused a lot of stress in and of itself of like, okay, well then how do I get through it? Because I see the value in completing the degree, to be able to have the fortitude to be able to go through and complete a 4-year program is very valuable. So I went through and I got it, but the stress really lied in, is this something I want to do? How are these skills that I'm learning transferable to stuff that I may have more passion for? And so that's where a lot of that stress lied. And I'm not saying like I wasn't stressed about the actual schoolwork. Engineering's hard, it really is. And there's a lot of, as with anything, if you want to be successful at something, you have to work for something. And there's a lot of stress behind, am I going to be able to do this? How do I do this correctly? I remember getting to exam time, and these stomach aches that I had when I was really little that were stress related, they've kind of lessened in frequency. But there's been situations where I'll either get a stomach ache or a headache because of like exams that were coming up, and at that point I just need to realize that I have to trust in my own abilities, trust in the process that I had of studying, and all that kind of stuff.
So actually this connects to my next question is in the part of life that you're in right now. So you're not really using your engineering degree. It's still
Right.
helpful in some ways. Where do you see yourself going?
Well, I mean, I really am still at a point where I'm open-minded to whatever may come forth, as long as it falls both within the skill sets that I have and the learnings that I've been open to receive, and it also strikes a passion,
Yeah.
which a lot of those um, a lot of those key factors required a lot of internal thought and some intentional inventory of who I am. And so one of the big things is I like to see a human impact with the work that I do, whether that's team building, whether that's seeing somebody's physical life circumstance improve for the better, whether that's seeing just growth or internal conflict resolution. Like there's a lot of ways that can present. And that's kind of like the original thought process of me going to be an engineer was like, oh, I'm going to build structures and building cities, roadways to help people make their lives easier. And it's like, yeah, on a common sense level, that is very helpful. And so that's where the passion originated. But I felt that my passion to help people was much stronger and I felt like I could do more than just make a roadway or make a building. Not that stuff is easy. I'm not saying that, but
Or that it's not important, but
Or-
that's just not where
yeah.
your heart was at.
right. I wanted to have more of a relational impact with people rather than a physical.
Yeah, where you're not actually, with the people who are,
Right. Yeah, like I've developed more, and I think this has been something that has been constantly put into my life of opportunities to be a good friend, to be a good teammate, to be a good coworker, to be somebody that people can depend on in various different ways, whether it's something that is surface level, but also being able to express to the people, hey, if you need something on a deeper level, if you need somebody to confide in or whatever, like it doesn't. I'm open to whatever, as long as there's a way I can help. I'm okay with helping, and that's totally fine. And so where I see myself going, I really have no clue. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
it doesn't matter as long as those three factors are put together.
Well, thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
your story and giving us more insight about, stress, college, where life is going, and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, so we hope you guys learned something new about Adam and maybe even about yourself as, get together with people and have conversations about the things that are going on in your life because it's super helpful. Thank you guys.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time and make sure you like and subscribe. Visit us at journeycoaching.org and check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Start your own journey at journeycoaching.org.
Your life, your journey starts now. Ba-da-ba-da-ba.